Kiss with a Fist by Diet Croak. Sundays were Longa's favorite. Sunday meant waking up in Recky's bed the night after S, limbs sore and achy, but somehow feeling perfect. It meant breakfast with the Kyans, a massive event with 3 helpings of rice prepared just for Longa, screaming toddlers, and Kayomi and Recky bickering over nothing all the while. Now, Longa loved his mom, loved eating with her, loved talking with her, but being with the Kyans like this was a wholly different experience, one he knew that she'd love the same as him once he worked up the nerve to invite her. He wanted to bring her over one of these Sundays when her work schedule aligned it right. She'd dote on the Kyans like she was born to do it, no doubt. A Hasegawa family trait, maybe, because, yeah, Longa was doting. Damn, was he doting. From sunrise to sunset, from the concrete to the air, from Recky's bed, which was lumpy but surprisingly comfortable, to his larger and, according to Recky, as hard as concrete mattress. Doting, definitely, hard. You're gonna get cold, he chastised Recky, watching him as he picked a t-shirt from a questionable pile. Clean laundry, dirty laundry? Every little hill in Recky's room looked the same. It was a wonder he always smelled so nice. Like warm beach sand and sugar, wood shavings, herbal tea and Coca-Cola. The combination depended on the day. You think I'm done? Recky snorted, interrupting his thoughts. Thank God for them both. It's like you don't even know me, Hasegawa. And suddenly, blessedly with no time for Longa to fully swoon at the sound of his last name in Recky's voice, Recky threw up his arms and presented the mother of all hoodies. The yellow one. Freshly washed, Recky said triumphantly. Only the finest of yellow fibers, dipped in gold. Midas hoodie, bro. Longa applauded politely at his dramatic posing. Recky squinted at him, yanking the hoodie overhead. You better not be making fun, he said, pulling one arm through. See if I still buy you snacks. He thrust the second out with a vengeance. I wasn't making fun. Good, because yellow is the shit. Longa nodded seriously, stretching his long legs out from the bed. I'm still waiting on my hoodie, you know. Yeah, Recky chuckled. He wiggled around a bit, letting the outfit settle on his lithe body. You'll get it. Someone's birthday is in a couple of weeks, remember? Is it yellow? Not telling. Midas hoodie? Not telling. Give me something, come on, Longa whined. I hate waiting. Don't I know it? Here. Suddenly, something soft hit him in the face in a flash of blue. Longa sputtered and sat up in bed, holding the thing out by the sleeves. Oh, a hoodie. Royal blue with a little ghost on it. Its lopsided eyes and giant, spiky-toothed smile beamed at Longa. New design? He asked, immediately sheathing it over his button-up. Old, actually, Recky grinned over his shoulder. Before I went with gears and cats, I went with ghosts. But you hate ghosts. So what? My designs never came to life to haunt me, or to cover themselves in mud and chase me on a board, he said. He fell back on his bed, arms outstretched in a capital T. The fuck did that end up being, by the way? Longa hummed, trying to remember what they'd Googled during their break the week after what Recky had branded the incident. I think it was a local tradition thing, a way to spook off bad vibes. Recky snorted. Hell of a way to do it. I almost had a heart attack. Longa nodded. I remember. Recky hiding behind him, his strong, calloused hands squeezing his kimono. Recky's waist in his arms as the two flew down a hill. Boy, did he remember. Bet it doesn't haunt your dreams, does it? He couldn't say it did. No? Not even a scrap of trauma? Longa searched the very depths of his soul. It took a concerningly short moment. No, he said. Sorry? Recky reached up to snag a pillow and unceremoniously slammed him in the face with it. You should be, Mr. Perfect all the time. Why do I have to be the hot mess? Because you're hot, Longa said underneath the pillow. Recky threw it off, huffing at him. What did you say? He asked. Nothing. If you're making fun again, I swear to God, not a single snack for you. Longa pouted. You promised, though. I did. You also promised something once, if I recall. Longa frowned. It's not funny, Recky. But Recky only beamed at him, springing away from the bed and propping his fists on his hips. Yeah, it is. If we can't joke about it, then we give it power. I see a therapist, remember? Anyway, he spun to his closet, reaching on his tiptoes for his trusty blue sneakers. Get your shoes on. I'm ready for food. Longa grunted, ever a poor loser, and started slipping on his Converse. You don't fight fair, he grumbled, tightening his laces. Nope, Recky replied happily. He grinned. You'll get your present soon. Let's head out. Recky was good at distracting him, both on purpose and not. Chalk it up to Recky being very hot and Longa being very gay. What was he supposed to do? Not lose himself in his overwhelming love for his best friend? Easier said than done. They chatted happily on the train, going over different ideas for food and what snacks deserved a place back at the Kyan home. Recky was torn on, apparently, everything. Longa wanted pretzels. He didn't particularly care which flavor. Together they hopped off the platform, bumping shoulders and laughing at something ridiculous as they made their way into the shopping district. In the dimming light of day, Recky was beautiful. Positively golden. Glowing. God, he was gorgeous. Longa tried not to think about it. They stopped stand after stand, laughing and bartering. Sundays were Longa's favorite. Perfect Sunday, as always. Until it wasn't. It's like you're begging for another lesson, Kyan, a voice sneered from the alley directly to Longa's right. Are you following us around now? Didn't get enough the first time? A man with a long ponytail grinned at them both from the shadows, teetering forward a step, holding a glass bottle in a bag. He wasn't exactly known for his fabulous deductive reasonings, but Longa somehow doubted it was sparkling water. Longa didn't realize that he'd fully slid in front of Recky until he felt his breath hitch against his neck. Sure, he had no idea who these dudes were. Not Ponytail, and certainly not Blonde One and Earrings One. But the threat in the big guy's voice was enough to make him wary. Recky sighed. "Oh, jeez," he said under his breath. Longa felt a hand on his shoulder, accompanied by a little tug, and suddenly he was side by side with Recky while he faced them. Not begging for shit, dude. Just walking. Pleasure as always to see you. You're a real peach. He jerked his head aside, meeting Longa's confused eyes. Come on, dude. Let's keep moving. They did, but not without jeers from the three in the alleyway. Some far too foul for Longa to repeat, all aimed at Recky. Jesus, what was all that about? Was it just a really weird, unfunny inside joke? Did the dudes go to their school or something? No, the faculty would never let those earrings slide. Recky had had one ear pierced for approximately 12 hours before he was caught and thrown out of school until that thing was gone. Longa had sat around miserably while Recky was grounded that week. The world was boring as hell without him. So are you gonna tell me why he began? Recky spun at him, sporting a pair of sunglasses he'd been eyeing at one of the stands. Hell no, he said firmly. Forget those jerks. How do I look? Oh, hang on. He pressed the side of the glasses. It was one of those fancy, yet somehow cheap pairs, with sliding text glowing across the lens. Bright green lettering scrolled left to right. Birthday boy. Oh, he was good. Longa was distracted, snorting behind his palm while Reki stuck out a hip and posed dramatically. What, no good? I figure it can be my new S name. Birthday boy? Longa repeated doubtfully. Oh, shit, Reki popped them off and scanned the text. Thought this was the one that said Maid of Honor. Were they out of World's Best Illegal Underground Skater? Reki carelessly flicked the glasses back onto the display stand. They gracefully landed right in place. Damn it, how did he make the stupidest shit look so cool? He was always saying Longa was the cool one between them, like he hadn't ran into a pole trying to see if a supposedly stray cat had a collar. It did. He saw it the second the cat scratched him and bolted under some porch. Or agonizing over the game of Scrabble he'd lost to his mother last week. He could have gotten Jukebox for 77 points. Victory could have been his. How did he not see it? Reki snorted. Nah, they had it. Just couldn't legally give it to me. Bullshit. That's what I said, Reki yelled dramatically. He gestured at the feeble-looking old man behind the register, who Longa only just noticed standing there. Isn't that what I said? The old guy blinked. I don't know what you're talking about. Reki nodded at him as if he'd agreed. See? Eyewitness. Longa rolled his eyes and steered him away, but not before muttering a quick apology to the poor guy. Reki really was too much sometimes. Well, not to him, or to anyone with good taste. But to random old people, probably. Reki spun out of Longa's grasp and bowed low. Sorry, sir. Cool glasses. Longa heaved him up. Oh my god, I can't take you anywhere. Reki cackled, throwing his arms carelessly behind his head. Yeah, like you're any better. I am better, Longa said dryly. I'm sorry, who got us kicked out of a goddamn cat-themed cafe because he took too many samples? Longa huffed. Low blow. Barred for life from Curlytail Cafe, and those quiches were so good, too. They were free. How was I supposed to know there was a limit? Reki was nearly doubling over now. Because they were free, Longa. Longa had entirely forgotten about those alleyway guys, just like Reki wanted him to, by the time they grabbed dinner. Yakisoba buns from the corner store. Bon appetit. But it was fine. Perfect, actually. Best Sunday ever, once again. Latest in a long line of best Sundays, with infinity more best Sundays ahead. He and Reki were quoting a video they'd watched together, Reki giggling like a maniac while Longa snorted indelicately, fed and content in their fun, safe bubble until someone came along and burst it. More accurately, Longa suddenly felt someone slug an arm over his shoulders, hanging on so tightly it nearly choked him. The snacks they'd picked up for their sleepover fell to the ground. A man he recognized, with bags on bags beneath his eyes, dark roots creeping out of piss-yellow hair, and a damp jersey sweatshirt that smelled like tobacco leaned against him. And here we were worried we'd miss the chance to really talk. Ponytail had hooked an arm around Reki in the same manner, using it to usher him forcefully into the awning of a closed storefront. The street lamps above were old, flickered out. It wasn't an empty street, but empty enough. Dark. Opportune. Longa's stomach churned. He let himself be strung along until he shared the dark corner with Reki and these people. Cretins. Whatever. Come on, Riku, Reki said tensely. My friend doesn't know you guys. He didn't do anything wrong. Let him go. We can talk when it's just the four of us. Longa wanted to scream. Excuse him? Just the four of them? As in 3-on-1? Because that's what this was, wasn't it? They didn't want to talk. They wanted to hurt him. The who and why of the matter were completely beyond him, but that hardly made Longa's current list of priorities. He wrenched free from the blonde and stood next to, but just enough in front of Reki. I'm not going. Hurry up and say what you wanted to say. We need to get home. Reki groaned behind him. Yeah, you don't get to be annoyed, Rex, he thought. You've got some explaining to do. Ponytail, Riku, he guessed, looked genuinely surprised, but that only lasted a second before he looked like absolute murder incarnate. Oh, I see, he said, with a distinctly unfriendly smile. I was wondering why you left us, Kian. Hurt my feelings when you said you didn't like us, you know. But that was just you saving face. You're too busy with your love life. Got yourself a boyfriend. Longan narrowed his eyes at the men. Ah, so it was like that. Reki didn't see what was so funny about it. Between three grown-ass men currently assaulting high school students, he doubted any of them had ever touched a woman, or a man, or anybody, let's be honest, in their lives. He almost said so, but figured that would get him punched, and didn't. So, of course, Longa picked the worst possible time to share a brain cell with him and said it himself. I'm not, but I can see why you'd be upset, Longa said steadily. Don't worry, being a virgin isn't a big deal, or so I've heard. It's a social construct anyway. Besides, it doesn't mean you'll never touch a woman. It just means all the ones you've met don't want you to. There's still plenty more that might have much lower standards. Oh my god. That was the last thought Reki had time to think before Riku threw a punch right into Longa's stomach, hard enough to have him wordlessly shout into the night. Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. Reki wasn't quick to anger. He could be a little touchy when he wasn't getting a trick right after a few tries, but typically he was more excitable than anything, in a good way. Now, rage was instant. It was burning him alive from the inside out. It reminded him of when Koyomi was little, maybe 10, and Reki had taken her to a skate park to teach her the basics. It was all going well until a group of creeps started making comments. Shouting at them, or more accurately, Koyomi, all kinds of shitty stuff. Just for being a kid. For being a girl. It got so bad so fast, Koyomi started to cry, and she never cried. Skin like steel most of the time, a lot like a certain other skater he could mention. But once a guy started asking if she'd wear a skirt once she'd started getting serious air, well, Reki threw his first punch that day. Actually his only punch, though at S there had been a few close calls. Still, those had all been one-sided, someone coming in hot with the intent to cause hurt until Reki managed to talk his way out of things. Now, once again, he wasn't particularly interested in talking. He shoved Riku back with all his strength, which turned out to be a lot, because he tripped off the ledge of the little market and somersaulted backwards into the street. Riku groaned, which seemed to spur Ao and Hinato into belated action. Ao punched forward, but it was dark, and even though it connected, he barely grazed Reki's jaw hard enough to sting. Still, Longa reacted as though he just straight up stabbed him, growling out and grabbing Ao by the shoulders. He threw back his fist before slamming it into the poor guy's face with as much strength and determination as he put into skating tricks. Not an explanation to be taken lightly. What Reki meant was Longa went for blood, and blood he got. Ao's nose burst red as he stumbled back, cupping the blood seeping out of his face. Longa merely flexed his hand, then curled it again, glowering at him with so much intensity he was surprised Ao didn't combust into flame. Hinato didn't seem to know what to do, so Reki took the out. He grabbed Longa's hand and pulled him from the dark, the two of them sprinting, their grocery bag left somewhere in the street. Longa's hand hurt. That was fine. He hoped that meant that the guy who'd hit Reki was hurting even worse. For the third time tonight, he let himself be led from one place to another, breathing hard throughout the unexpected cardio. Finally, Reki practically threw him into the fluorescent lights of a 24-hour joint. He hadn't paid attention to which one. "Time for more snacks, I guess, huh?" he said breathlessly, giving a small, polite bow to the lady behind the counter. She hesitantly bowed back, confused by the two panting boys who just flew through her door. Reki spun on his heel, heading down the first aisle. "You want the same stuff, or something different? I'm buying." Longa's lungs finally caught up enough for him to speak. "What was that?" Reki blinked innocently at him. Too innocently. "Hmm? Oh, I said I'm buying, so if you want different stuff, don't worry about the cost." Longa was in his face before he could get another word out. "Reki, come on. You know what I'm asking. What the fuck just happened?" "Since when do you drop F-bombs?" Reki muttered, picking at the hem of his sweatshirt. "Since some guy just punched you in the face!" Reki smirked. "I wouldn't call it a punch. He practically missed me." His amber eyes suddenly widened in realization, and he ran to Longa, a tentative palm hovering over his stomach. "But, oh God, I'm so sorry, Longa. Riku hit you so fucking hard. Are you okay, Dizzy?" Longa frowned. "I swear to God. Reki, can you breathe okay? Do you have blood in your mouth?" "Reki!" Longa smacked his palms on either side of Reki's face, smashing his cheeks. His lips pursed adorably. "No, no, no," he said to his heart and to other less platonic places. "Not now. We are angry right now." "I used to skate with those guys," Reki said in a muffled tone. Longa let him go, and he rubbed his cheeks sourly, muttering, "Ow, by the way?" "I got punched today. You don't get to say ow." Reki lowered his gaze to the floor, looking kind of crushed. "You're right. Sorry. I was hoping..." He sighed. "I was hoping you wouldn't have to deal with them. I tried to get you to run." The lady behind them coughed, not meanly, but perhaps to remind them that they were in a public store. "Ah, right." Longa turned and grabbed the first thing he saw on the shelf. Matcha-covered pretzel sticks. Sure, why not? "What makes you think I'd do that?" he said, feigning nonchalance for the worker's sake. She wasn't getting paid enough to deal with a soap opera. "Do what? Have a sense of self-preservation?" Reki muttered grumpily. Longa threw the bag, maybe a bit hard, at Reki, who managed to catch. He grabbed another bag just for himself. Reki was paying, right? And the unplanned cross-country race had made him hungry. "You're one to talk. 3 against 1, Reki? Really?" he said. It came out a bit sharper than intended, and he saw the woman jump in his periphery. He breathed deeply through his nose and started towards the drinks. He handed Reki his beloved lemon soda. Longa liked it fine, but Reki absolutely worshipped the stuff. It was a tiny olive branch, a sign that, whatever conversation they were about to have, everything would be fine between them. Sometimes Reki needed little reminders that he wasn't going anywhere. Reki seemed to understand as he took the drink. He took a long breath, his jittery eyes visibly relaxing, softening. Damn, he had beautiful eyes. Hard being secretly in love with a moron who apparently just knows dudes who will just beat the shit out of him for no reason and neglects to mention it to anybody. "So, basically, you remember Daiki, my friend when I was a kid? We got into skateboarding together and..." Longa nodded. "Yeah, he got hurt and quit, right?" He winced as it came out. Tact was never his strong suit, but a new anxiety instantly overtook the other. "Wait," he gasped, hand frozen, hovering for a yogurt. "Was that him? That was Daiki?" Reki vehemently shook his head. No, Daiki moved to Tokyo like 2 years ago. No, I was just gonna say that when Daiki quit, I started actively looking for people to skate with. Because, well, you know how I am." Longa nodded. He did know how he was. Reki loved skating, and he loved people. He wanted to share his joy. It was his way, his language. Reki was infinitely a giver. His nature was, at its core, to share. Passionate, Longa said. Reki blinked at him. Longa wanted to die on the spot. Of all the goddamn words he could have picked. Sure, he laughed. Anyway, I met them my freshman year of high school at the skate park. They were okay enough at first. Then they just sat around, talked shit on everyone. Talked shit on me, to my face, while I tried nailing a Casper. Then, one night, Reki chewed his lip, like he didn't know how to proceed with the story. Longa was instantly wary. Just how much was he about to censor for his sake? Well, fine then. If he wanted to be like that, Longa would make sure to wring the truth from him. Just not here, at a convenience store. Over pretzels and lemon soda on Reki's lumpy bed would be preferable. Longa jerked his head towards the cashier, and Reki got the message. He glumly paid, looking back to glare at Longa when the extra treats were scanned. Longa smiled innocently. Nuisance, Reki said under his breath. He took the grocery bag and bowed to the cashier. Thanks so much. Have a good night. Longa followed suit, his own bow a little curt and rushed, but the girl seemed to understand. She nodded at him, then gazed after Reki as if to say, Go get your emotionally dysfunctional man. I offer to buy snacks, and you obliterate my wallet, Reki said, without any real steam, shoving his hands in his pockets as they walked, sticking to the white glow of the streetlights. Every time they passed under one, a perfect circular halo was cast against Reki's red hair. Fitting. Except not right now. It's like you don't even know me, Longa huffed. Free food? What did you expect? Free for who? Reki shouted back, laughing. Me, obviously. Reki snorted, and he softened immediately, pliable as warm butter. Talking like this took some of the heat right out of Longa's head and shot it straight through the heart. Frankly, if Longa didn't have these episodes of covert flirting with Reki, he probably would explode. He could only withhold so much. Yes, that was to blame. Self-preservation. Who wants to explode? Not Longa. So he threw an arm around Reki, careful not to squeeze as tightly as he wanted, and knocked the boy's hip with his. Reki made a hilarious, sputtering noise. Oh, now he's being friendly? Does that mean I'm forgiven? Longa hummed. Nope. Shoulda known. Yep. Reki sighed, then with a massive eye roll, he too had his arm around Longa's shoulder. They walked like that for a minute in silence, groceries dangling between them. Ao and Hinato can be pretty nasty, but Riku's awful. Like, just horrible, Reki said quietly. Something in his voice made Longa hug him a bit tighter, despite his promise to keep things platonic. Reki didn't notice or care as he continued. The other jerks are barely 20, and Riku's like 35, and he's disgusting. A couple girls came to the park the last day we hung out, or whatever you want to call it, and he... Reki shook his head. Reki wasn't usually the type to get riled up, but something in this memory must have brought out his deeply hidden, mostly unused violent anger. Longa felt a little surprised. Dizzy? Wait, was he turned on? Now of all times? Was that even okay? Longa took a deep breath, getting his bearings. He would not get horny while Reki spilled his guts. Jesus Christ, Hasegawa. I don't really want to repeat what he said, Reki finally muttered. They couldn't have been older than 13, and he said all this shit. They both stopped walking at this point. Reki seemed lost in his head, grimacing all the while, like he'd left his mental map behind. Longa knew the look well. Usually, it helped if... He took his hand, squeezed it. Reki relaxed immediately. like clockwork. That probably meant something. But then maybe it didn't. And so Longa would have to live with not confessing once again, hiding behind his doubts like a little kid. I told the girls to get the police. I mean, he was technically harassing them. He ran off before anything could happen. Longa nodded. You gave them a chance. They turned out to be assholes. And now, what? They just beat your ass every time they see you? Ricky perked up, unlocking their arms to wave his around like he was trying to land a plane. Oh, no, not at all. I've seriously barely seen them since that night. Longa considered this, then kept heading forward. This all sucked, but to be honest, he was hungry again, and the matcha-covered pretzels were calling his name. Still, just to be perfectly clear with him, Longa said, if you see them and I'm not with you, you text. Just say SOS. Don't take them on by yourself, for the love of God. Protective much? Someone's got to protect you since you're so hell-bent on killing yourself. Says who? Says the helmet you don't wear while you skate. Ricky's mouth fell open. You don't wear one either, you asshole. My skull is thicker. Bullshit! Riku punched me in the head like 1,000 times, and I'm still kicking your ass in math. Longa laughed, until his mind snagged on something he'd said, like an old sweater on a doorframe. He stopped right where he was, watching Reki as he nonchalantly skipped along. Wait, what do you mean? Riku didn't hit you. Reki froze. Forget calling him Snow when Reki was so good at it. He looked like a mannequin in the middle of the street, eyes wide as they slowly turned to him. Oh yeah, I meant Ao. Ao hit you once, and you said barely. At this, Reki's shoulders dropped. Oh no. Okay, he said slowly. So, there was maybe one other time they caught me alone? Longa slapped his hand to his forehead. Oh my God. It's fine. I'm fine. You couldn't have known. We weren't really talking when it happened, so... Longa felt the earth physically swoop lower beneath his feet. Not talking? He said slowly. You don't mean before I moved here, do you? Reki's face was nearly purple. Even under the scant lighting, Longa could see as much. Fuck. Despite what some people said, Longa did have quite the preserve of self-control. So what if he taped his feet to the deck of a skateboard? So what if he almost died because some guy was having his midlife crisis in his 20s and wanted to drag him to skating heaven? Hell? To be honest, Adam's true endgame had always eluded him. All that aside, the truth Reki and his mother knew, that people outside that tiny circle of trust always seemed to have trouble comprehending, he could be so much worse. Longa took a deep breath. Let it out. So while we were fighting? Reki nodded hesitantly. Yeah? When exactly? His tone was too neutral. He could tell by the way Reki cringed. About an hour before we made up at the skate park? Reki scratched his chin. Then I got hit by a car? Longa blinked. Once. Twice. Well, boy, that was a lot of information in 2 sentences. He couldn't even fathom the words hit by a car yet, so he decided to focus his energy where he could. Longa smiled at him. Okay, so do you think those guys are still at the shopping district? Reki held the groceries as if to protect them. Why? He said warily. Because I'm going to beat the shit out of them, Longa replied, perfectly chipper as he spun on his heel. Oh, hell no, Longa! Reki snagged his arm hard and yanked him the other way. I am not spending the rest of my days talking to you through plexiglass. You're taking the fucking high road, buddy. Longa still tried going the other way, pulling Reki so hard he almost tripped. This is me taking the high road. How so? I'm not gonna kill them. Just, get them real close to dying. Like real close. Jesus, Reki hissed. Longa heard the sound of groceries falling into the street for the second time tonight as he grasped his arms, forcing him to turn and look at him. Longa, dude, that is a really terrible idea. Longa considered this. He supposed, logically, it was. But damn it, illogically? Best plan he'd ever had. He began strutting forward. Reki practically shoved him backwards. Longa, he said, please just forget about those pricks. I just want to hang out with you. Let's just, eat snacks and watch Demon Slayer? Are you caught up yet? The new season started. Damn. Tempting. Longa cocked his head to the side, weighing his options. He couldn't well enough just let this new information go unaddressed. If Reki had it his way, he was positive they'd never talk about it again. Which was troubling, for a lot of reasons. Longa looked Reki dead in the eye. We'll watch Demon Slayer, he allowed, and Reki sighed, visibly deflating with relief. But we're also going to talk about this. Relief was instantly replaced with narrowed, defensive eyes. Reki huffed, collecting the groceries from the street. There's nothing to talk about. Longa glowered at him. That's what I thought you'd say. Because it's the truth. Hit by a car, Reki? He challenged back. Reki frowned, poking around the grocery bag as if there was something interesting in there. It was just a bump. I survived. What's to tell? He couldn't take it anymore. The self-deprecation thing was kind of cute in a way, for a time. Now it was downright troubling. Fuck you, Longa mumbled. He snatched the bag away and started marching towards Reki's house. Fuck me? Why? Reki shouted, running after him. What's the problem now? Longa grunted in response. 3 guesses, Reki. Longa, come on. Longa cracked. Enough. Seriously, enough. Why do you make it so hard to take care of you on purpose? Longa snapped at him. Why can't you just let the people who care about you, Reki? Because I want to. I really want to. But what am I supposed to do when you refuse to let me? Reki's mouth fell open, gaping like a fish in dry land. How is beating the shit out of those dudes helpful to me? How is not telling anyone about them and trying to push me away so that the 3 of them can murder you helpful to you? His entire figure jumped, startled by his tone. His cheeks were practically glowing. Okay, point taken, he mumbled. But can we at least, get home first? Relax? Eat some snacks? A sense of normalcy would be pretty damn great right about now. Longa snapped his mouth shut, tight enough to make his jaw shake. A few moments and he could breathe again, closing his eyes as he sighed. Okay, he said. Then, just because, he took Reki's hand again. Kind of hard to be subtle after a speech like that. Maybe Longa should just dig his friendship grave already and hop in. It would only be a matter of time before Reki realized it anyway. He was pretty perceptive. And Longa was, obvious, if the hand-holding were any indication. Reki didn't seem to mind, though. He never seemed to mind. He swung their hands between them and shot off on some tangent about the best cake he'd ever eaten, pineapple with a light glazed frosting, and the time his homeroom teacher wrongfully accused him of stealing the class gecko, Prince Maru, only to find the gecko napping in a slipper a few hours later. He kinda looked like you too, Reki laughed. All blank stares and wide eyes. He used to lick his own eyeballs. Hilarious. Gee, thanks, Longa grumbled. Don't be offended. Prince Maru was awesome, just like Prince Maru II. He giggled, poking Longa in the chest. Longa rolled his eyes so hard he saw the curvature of the earth. Prince this, Prince that. Why does everyone call me that? It's weird. Ricky snorted. They were nearing his house now, the low, telltale stone walls bursting with hyacinths appearing at the end of the street, and Longa's stomach grumbled at the implications. It had been a long evening, and he wanted those goddamn pretzels already. Oh, Longa, Reki said, side-eyeing him with pity. Poor, sweet Longa. It's because you're tall and stoic and pretty. Longa stopped walking. Almost stopped existing altogether. If only. What? Pretty? Reki waved a hand around like he was hoarding off gnats. Never mind, he squeaked. He jumped behind Longa and started pushing him towards the house. Just get inside, God! Sense of normalcy, remember? Longa decided there was no way around it. If he didn't roll with it for now, they'd never have the conversation they needed to. And maybe he decided this after he was so flustered by Reki calling him pretty that he let the boy drag him into his room, practically throwing him on his bed and rushing to his beat-up laptop, but still. They dug into their snacks with a vengeance, Longa inhaling an entire bag of pretzels before the first episode was halfway through. Watching anything with Reki was just watching something with commentary. Longa didn't mind, though. He could see Reki always holding himself back, trying to contain his thoughts and appraisals on every little thing, until they inevitably burst through with the wild flying of hands and wide eyes. It was okay. More than okay. He didn't just tolerate it, he enjoyed it. He tended to lose attention just a few minutes into most shows and movies anyway. Reki made him pay attention, in a way that didn't make him feel forced to. Reki made everything interesting. But he wouldn't distract him from his goal, though. Not today. The very second Longa found an inn, the perfect medium between Reki settling quietly on a thought and the episode ending, he paused the outro and shoved the computer aside. How best to begin? Well, in the best way Longa knew how. Simply jump. Full swing. No regard for the consequences, because sometimes that hesitant regard caused the most problems of all. I think you don't think about yourself enough, and that really worries me, Longa suddenly declared. He was pretty proud of himself, actually. Communication. He was doing it. Or at least he thought so, until Reki snorted and folded his arms. Please, dude, you don't even want to discuss the episode a little? Longa genuinely thought about it. The newest season seemed exciting, and the art was beautiful, but it wasn't that complicated. Reki had the audacity to scoff. And I am? Yes. You're a real person and not an animated character, so... His best friend rolled his eyes again with an audacity that suddenly made Longa want to scream. He rolled to his side, slapping a hand to his forehead and dragging it to his chin. Longa, bud, I can't stop thinking about myself. It's getting my self-centered ass to shut up that's the trick. Longa frowned, switching gears. So Reki wanted to deflect, huh? Well, Longa would put a stop to that. I bet I can guess what you're thinking about, he said, with narrow eyes. You're thinking about how to make yourself smaller, how to cause less trouble. Reki swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing visibly. Look, Longa, you're not troublesome to the people who care about you, Longa pressed on. You don't need to worry about causing trouble for us. We care about you. We want to help you. Because we... The love you was right there, hanging precariously at the tip of his tongue, but he forced it back. Could be too much too soon, and then where would they be? He couldn't risk Reki withdrawing from him, from everyone, and that wasn't an option. Definitely not. Not after tonight. Because we care. We care because we like you, he finally ended. Reki blinked at him. Oh. Suddenly, Longa felt like all the air had fled the room. I I mean, it's just you're great. You don't deserve to be cornered like. He was interrupted by a huge, warm hug, thanks to Reki Kyan's cozy Midas sweater and the wonderful boy wearing it. Longa froze for a moment, surprised, before hugging him back so hard Reki was knocked on his back. Longa stared at him from above, cataloging every wayward strand of hair laying against his mattress before coming back to his senses. In his panic, he pinched Reki's cheek. "You're a sappy nerd," he muttered, because that seemed more acceptable than "I love you." Reki swatted at his hand. "Are you kidding? You're the biggest nerd I've ever met." Okay, now he was a little offended. "What? How?" "The way you cried over Return of the King," Reki mentioned, after promising never to mention it again, like a traitorously traitorous traitor. He pinched his cheeks in retribution. Reki giggled, happy as anything, bright as the sun, and pinched Longa back, his cheeks stretching up to form a forced smile. "You promised to never mention that," whined Longa through strained means. "You also promised something, if I recall." Reki grabbed him by the hair. Hot, that was hot, and shoved his face into the closest pillow. "You're not as funny as you think you are." "Maybe." Longa smiled up at him, and Reki laughed, as clear and beautiful as bells. Maybe. Who cared about how shitty tonight was when he got to have this? Still, if he saw those guys again, he'd break their jaws. Probably. Maybe. If Reki let him. It all came down to Reki, didn't it? They fell asleep thinking about each other. Reki fell limp mid-movie. Longa was dragged into dreams of being bigger, buffer, more confident. He imagined driving those guys' faces into the brick walls of the shopping district alleys. Yeah, it all came down to Reki.